as it is, we've got a quorum here. And we always start off by acknowledging our Creator first. And I'd like to ask Foster Campbell to lead us in prayer.
Dear God, look over us today. Keep us in mind that we're trying to help the people of the state of Louisiana. I'm always reminded, and hope everybody else is reminded, that one of the greatest things we can do is you think about the least of these. Like you said in the scripture, the least of these is that's our job. And this job is directly involved in that because the least of these pay the bills. And we need to be aware of that, try to make the bills as reasonable as possible for the poor state in America. In God's name, amen.
Amen. I'd like to ask our Vice Chairman, Mr. Lewis, to do the pledge.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job. Good job. Okay, let's start out with our announcements. Secretary Fry, you have something for us?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. With sad news, it seems like this is becoming more common, but we wanted to announce the passing of a man who I believe was a giant in our industry, who practiced in front of the commission for years. John Siobhan, who represented Marathon, passed away on the 12th. And I'd like to, John never really came to the table much, but was behind the scenes working on some of the biggest dockets. So I thought it might be nice if we had some of the people who worked with him on a regular basis and knew him to say a few words about it. So I've spoken to him already. So if Mark Klehammer, Randy Young, and Jennifer Vosberg could come up, I think they want to share a few words about John.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, and I'll say this, I've called John many times and asked him to explain some of this complicated business to me. He was a wealth of information and a great guy. I really enjoyed working with him. I'm going to miss him personally. So, okay, who wants to go first? Ladies first, huh?
Thank you, Commissioner. For those of y'all who didn't know, John Siobhan was actually from New Roads, where I live.
Yes.
And so I had the opportunity yesterday to visit with the family, many of whom I've known for decades at this point. And the message that we had yesterday was how much John loved what he did. You know, the fact that he was such a gentleman at what he did, as well as just, brilliant. But, what y'all didn't get to see that I got to see, seeing him in New Roads was such a family man, was such a good Christian man, going to daily mass. His wife, Bonnie, of 60 years, their children, their grandchildren. Everything that we saw and knew about John Siobhan here, that was the true person. He was just an amazing, wonderful, brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. Imagine sitting in New Roads and I would go to the store and I'm in the parking lot talking to John Siobhan about, a multi-billion-dollar Entergy docket or something, thinking there is nobody else in this parish right now who understands what we're talking about. But just the brilliance that he was, he's going to be greatly missed. But
Okay, Randy Young.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to Brandon for this idea too. And John spent a large part of his life dedicated to work before the commission, and so I think it's great to have this opportunity to remember him. So John was just a really, really fine gentleman, excellent person to be around, and a good friend over a whole lot of years, and we'll miss him a whole lot. Very much a very Christian person. He brought his Christianity to everything he did. He always wore a cross since the first time I met him more than 30 years ago, and that was a big part of who he was as well. But when you got to know John, so John loved numbers, and it just brings back some fun thoughts. So John would put out spreadsheets like nobody else that I've ever known ever, and we deal with a lot of numbers, but John was the king of the spreadsheets. But the amazing thing was that he would write them all out by hand. And so he was not working on a computer. He would do it all on legal pads, and he'd get his daughter to type up all of his spreadsheets. But he was definitely the king of the numbers and the spreadsheets, and I'll miss that, and I'll miss his smile and just working with him. And fortunate to get to work with him quite a bit here over the last few months as part of the energy rate case, and just talked to him a day before he passed, and he was still talking about his numbers and excited about his numbers. So we'll miss him a lot. Fine gentleman.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with everything Jennifer
Mark,
and
Cleo.
Randy said. I had the opportunity to work with John for about 20 years, and everything they say is true. His detailed understanding of the filings, which can be extraordinarily complex, was pretty amazing. In fact, we sometimes had coached our team to learn through his discovery because we knew what questions he was going to have. And it was just, his focus was on the details, but his ultimate focus was on resolving conflict amicably. And so we would get to a position where he would settle cases, he would move toward settlement, never giving up the strong positions for his clients. I mean, he was always almost the best informed person in the room, but he strove to get to the right answer for both Marathon and all of the other customers, and I really did appreciate working with him.
I want to say something.
Okay, Commissioner Campbell, he's on, yeah. Mr. Campbell.
But can
I worked with him ever since I got here, and which has been a long, long time, 27 years or something like that. But I respected him. He was a nice fellow. I called him on a lot of things. Although he worked for energy, he never let you down, but he would tell me if I was right or wrong. He had a great, and he still does, has a great son-in-law. Don Cashew is my friend, was United States Attorney. And he was totally honest, and he and his father-in-law, he was proud of his father-in-law, and his father-in-law was proud of him. I spoke, you might as well say, when a vacancy came up, I was for Don Cashew, because I think he's a fine fellow. But evidently it hadn't worked out. But anyway, very seldom do you meet a guy with that kind of integrity. I'm not disparaging anybody out there. We're all have faults. But very seldom do you meet a guy that's that clean and nice and honest. And it's, you know that right off the bat when you talk to them. No tricks, nothing, no fancy talk, just ask him the question, he'd answer it. So I didn't know that till just now that he passed away. When is his funeral?
It was yesterday.
Yesterday. Well, I'm sorry, I would have came early, I would have paid my respects. But if you see Congressman Cashew, you tell him I asked about him and his wife. His wife is John's daughter, yeah. They're nice people. New Roads missed a good citizen yesterday. That doesn't mean the rest of you guys are not nice people. But I don't know if you're nice as he was, I can just tell you that. Because he's close to being at the very, very top. Very top.
Thank y'all for coming up, and I want to say this, John was really special as a mentor, and there was just something special about him, the way he would talk to you and help you, and I still remember when I first started, I was really in the dark on a lot of issues, and he really took a lot of time to help me. And I want to say this too, there's some folks out here in the audience that favor John, and John was an example too, that are still living mentors for all. So thank y'all for what you're doing while you're still living. Thank you for the way you've helped me, many of you. Thanks. And here's our final two commissioners. All right, are there some other announcements? Commissioner Lewis.
Did you have something, Catherine?
I do, but go ahead. You're
Okay.
fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first wanted to just thank a lot of the utility companies for the week we had yesterday as we navigated a lot of uncertainty and worked some very strange hours. It's something you don't want to experience as a commissioner, but it was my first time as commissioner dealing with such a storm. And there's so many unnamed people that I want to thank, especially the two electric utilities in my district, DIMCO and Entergy, for their tireless work to restore power to those in my district, for the timely information that was received, for all of the linesmen who I got to visit up and down my district who did extraordinary work in some hard conditions to turn the power back on. And so I wanted to take this time to thank them for their service and all the work that they did, especially in parts of my district which were hard hit, such as Ascension, St. John, St. James, and St. Charles and Assumption parishes. And so I appreciate the work, and I think this is a model that hopefully we can continue on in the future. Francine did not do as catastrophic damage, which is great, but I think the working relationship and the partnerships we built last week and the timely information was beneficial. And so I know this is not a one-off event, that this may occur again. This was a test to our system, but I know potentially we will face stronger storms, so I hope we can continue to do this work. Going back to some of our previous dockets on pole viability, grid maintenance, resiliency, to ensure that we are continuously improving our system and our structures so that we can protect all of those. I want to give a special shout out to DIMCO for their communication. It was great to have an hourly update of what was going on in my district, so I truly appreciated that. So I wanted to put that on the record, Mr. Chairman. Secondly, I wanted to thank one of my staffers who is departing us today. I had done a partnership with New York University and their Environmental and Impact Center to have a fellow, a legal fellow, who has assisted us in policy research, handling dockets. And Annie Matthews has been an invaluable member of my team, preparing me and having multiple conversations with a lot of you on the future of our utility and energy system. I can say I have become a better commissioner because of Annie and her knowledge and her research and her quest to always push me to make the best decisions, not only for our state, but for our infrastructure. She has received an amazing opportunity, and this will be her last meeting with me and last meeting here at the commission. So Annie, we wanted to thank you for your service to the District 3 office, for your engagement. We wish you the best, and you know where you can come for a good lunch once again. So thank you, Annie, for all that you have done. And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, I want to talk about, as we talked about resiliency a second ago, I had a pleasure of speaking on a panel with NARUC and the author of the Department of Energy's new liftoff report for their innovation grid deployment. This is a project that is in the Loan Programs Office of Grid Deployment Office in the DOE. And after a series of very impressive conversations, investigations in different areas of technology and energy systems, I highly recommend all of our electric utilities to look at this DOE liftoff report and have conversations. I sent you all a letter yesterday asking for some information about what grid-enhancing technologies that you are imploring, looking at, or considering, and I hope you would provide context for your responses. After that, I would love, and I've been in talk with the DOE Loan Office, to have a presentation and a gathering here in the state with Jigar Shah and Leslie Richards from the DOE Loan Office to talk about ways we can find resources to improve the Louisiana electric grid, especially in the face of these natural disasters that we are seeing. And so if you did not receive that letter, please reach out to my office, but I look forward to your responses and your engagement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Okay, I would like to welcome Mr. Scametta, Commissioner Green, and we acknowledged John Siobhan's passing. I don't know if y'all had any comments on John?
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, it was a pleasure to work with Mr. Siobhan. He was always very dedicated to his client, and it was we didn't see him that often, but when we did, it was he always brought thoughtful, content to the conversation, and he will definitely be missed. And I'm sorry to hear of his passing, and my best to his family. Also, like to add further comment on the subject matter of Hurricane Francine. And, join in the general comments from Commissioner Lewis. It should not be taken lightly that Louisiana was impacted by a Category 2 storm, and we effectively did full restoration in under 70 hours where Texas was impacted by a Category 1 storm and took more than a month for restoration. And it's a testament to the way we have assessed how we regulate, how we require our companies to respond, and also how we deal with handling the storm and the storm outages. So it was especially well handled with this storm. A lot of people saying it's a test storm. I said, well, it's a Category 2 storm, so I think a lot of people who had, were impacted didn't think too much of it being a test storm. But the good news was all the various state agencies, the utilities, the commission, everything went particularly well handled, very smooth, and shows that all the years of adapting, modifying planning really made a difference. I will say one thing I thought made a huge difference was this time, particularly Entergy, as well as some of the co-ops, doubled the amount of vegetation control personnel. And I think that made a big difference on how quickly things moved along. And one final note, on a different note, y'all noticed that my Chief of Staff, Audrey DeWall, is no longer with the commission. She has moved on to the Department of Environmental Quality. She is now the State Director of Special Projects, serving the Secretary over there. So thank you very much.
I just want to thank everyone for their work on the storm. I thought it was, unfortunately, you get better at the things you do a lot of, and so we seem to be getting better at that. Hopefully, with some of our resiliency and pole viability dockets, we have fewer and fewer of the recurring problems as well. I know that the general public keeps asking, why do we keep having these problems? Well, one, wind blows hard, and two, it costs money to make it better. So we can't affect the first, but we're trying to affect the second, and that will take time and money, so thank you.
Okay, any other announcements?
And actually, I had a report I was gonna give, so since we've kind of teed it up, I'll give my report now on the storm, kind of where we peaked and all of that. So Hurricane Francine made landfall in Lower Terrebonne Parish on September 11th at approximately 5 p.m. The estimated top wind speeds at landfall were 100 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 972 millibars. LPSC began tracking outages at GOSEP that afternoon, and we recorded our peak outages on the morning of the 12th at 6 a.m. at approximately 410,000. Jessica has been tracking these storms with me and other staff members for about 20 years now, and we've kept a pretty good chart together. So with that peak of 410,000, that ranks 9th of the tropical systems we've been tracking over the last 20 years for total maximum outages. While a number of our utilities experience outages, both jurisdictional and non-jurisdictional, the peak outages were as follows. For Energy, and this includes Energy New Orleans, who we don't regulate, but they report to us, 302,500, DEMCO 40,000, Cleo 37,000, WST 24,500, and SLECA 20,600. That was SLECA's entire system that was off at one time. With that peak, that was approximately 18% of all of our jurisdictional customers. However, within 24 hours, more than 60% was restored. We had 139,000 still out 24 hours from our peak. Within 48 hours, approximately 90% was restored. I've never seen numbers like that. There were 46,700 remaining 48 hours out, and within 72 hours, that number dropped to 18,000. By day 4, all but 2,800 had been fully restored. As we pointed out at GOSEP, and I know both Commissioner Lewis and Commissioner Scametta and Commissioner Green, you've all said this, why were these numbers lower? So we looked at, for our comparative purposes, 2 similar storms, Gustav, which was a little bit stronger, Isaac, which was a little bit weaker, which took similar paths. By comparison, and we gave these numbers at GOSEP, and I think they were reported in press conferences as well, Gustav, we peaked at 1.3 million outages, and Isaac, 900,000. So less than half of Isaac and less than a third of Gustav. Storm was certainly faster moving, so that may have helped us. It's possible that the winds recorded were not as high, but you've all mentioned resilience, and there's a firsthand example of what resilience can do, and this was, I know Commissioner Scametta, you mentioned this at a press conference. Grand Isle never lost power. So Grand Isle was rebuilt to a hardened standard above ground following Ida, and it never lost power. I don't know if that's ever happened in a storm down there. We could probably get energy to tell us, but it shows that if we build things right, they can last. And as pointed out by the commissioners, there was quite a bit of vegetation removal ahead of time, which we know definitely helped. One other thing too, I know there was very good coordination between the IOUs and the co-ops about pointing out, and that was pointed out to me from both sides of the equation, and as well with the IOUs and some of the municipal systems they serve. So, you know, we're getting better at this, obviously. We'd like to have none, but it's definitely helping. A few numbers that we have right now, we had approximately 8,000 crew members working the storm. That's combined between the IOUs and the co-ops. And our early estimates, about 1,700 broken or damaged poles. I'm gonna need to pull back and see how that compares to others, but that could be a testament to replacing some of these older poles. The number doesn't seem very high to me for a storm of this size. And Jessica, I don't know, and finally, let me thank Jessica, and we also drug in David, who is not in here, our IT director, who is Jessica's new assistant, who were there all the time. Commissioners come out, I know you got to see it firsthand. It's organized chaos, basically. I wouldn't say chaos. It's a very well-run machine at GOSEP. We have utilities embedded there. The communication industry is embedded there, and we've gotten really efficient at addressing these issues. Jessica, I don't know if you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think you said it right.
Oh, get the mic.
I've been doing these storms, since 2002, and working with Brandon for a long time too, even before he was executive secretary. This was amazing. The response from I've never seen, a Cat 2 hurricane to have 66% back on within 24 hours, it's unheard of. Especially going over populated areas, with Flora and Delta, they took out, 600,000 people, but they went up the whole side of the state and it only took out 600,000 people. I say only. But anytime you go over, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Jefferson Parish, you could expect those numbers to be bigger, like Isaac, like Gustave and Ike. And instead, we only had 409,000 people. If that's not resiliency, I don't know what is. So thank you, Brandon, for always being supportive of me and what we do over there.
Thank you, Brandon.
Good job.
Any other announcements?
I do have one, Commissioner. So I just wanted to make an announcement that the Energy Bar Association's Louisiana chapter is hosting a seminar next week on September the 25th at the Tulane Law School. And the seminar is going to be on the impacts of the Supreme Court's Loper-Bright decision on utility regulation. So if you're interested in going or would like any more information, you can contact either Jamie Watts or Nathan Huntworth.
All right, let's move on to Exhibit 2.
So moving on to exhibit number 2 is docket number R31106. This is the Commission's rulemaking to study the possible development of financial incentives for the promotion of energy efficiency by jurisdictional electric and gas utilities. It's a discussion and possible vote on the 2024 budget increase for the District 3 engineer and to retain an engineer for District 3 for 2025. Pursuant to the Commission's general order dated December 2nd of 2021, each commissioner can nominate a qualified engineering firm to provide professional services for each district for the political subdivision energy efficiency program, subject to the Commission's confirmation vote and approval. Based on that general order and the allocation of political subdivision portion to the program for District 3, Bonton Associates provided the engineering services to District 3 for 2024, which was $26,251. Since January of this year, Bonton has reviewed and assisted District 3 in awarding approximately $3 million for energy efficiency projects, is in the process of reviewing an additional applications that are anticipated to award an additional approximately $650,000 in the near future. In addition, Bonton has worked with District 3 to close out remaining projects from 2022 and then has completed inspections and closing reports for those projects within the year of 2024. Given the additional assistance Bonton has provided District 3 for projects prior to 2023, including assistance in awarding a backlog of funding, Bonton has expended its budget for 2024 prior to the close of the year. With the additional work identified to close out 2024 and anticipated work for 2025, Bonton requested and Vice Chairman Lewis supported a budget increase of $25,748 to close out 2024, as well as nominates Bonton to be District 3's engineer for 2025 for a budget not to exceed of $26,251.74 for a total budget of $52,000. Pursuant to the Commission's general order, staff recommends that the Commission approve Commissioner Lewis's nomination of Bonton Associates to assist District 3 with the political subdivision energy efficiency program in 2025, and approve the budget increase for 2024 in the amount of $25,748.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Bonton Associates was the engineering firm that my district hired when I took over. Our district had a backlog of applications that were pre-approved, really just a matter of days before I took over. And they have worked diligently not only to close and do those completed reports from a bunch of the projects that Commissioner Bossier had approved, but then also work with me and my public entities on the new projects. Our budget has been a lot bigger because we did not use it for a few years. And so we are requesting not only this extension, but already going ahead for the 2025 year. This would still keep them within the 1% that we're allocated under our budget. We are still one of the lowest percents in the district, and so I would ask, well, I would move we accept staff's recommendation at this time.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lewis, seconded by Commissioner Scametta. Is this a one-time charge to kind of catch up, or you?
Yes, sir. So we allocated money for 2024 already, and they have expended that budget, but a lot of what that expense was closing out a bunch of the projects that Commissioner Bossier had approved in 2022. And so this is just so since there was no engineer hired in 2022, it's kind of almost like a catch-up
Okay, all right.
for that.
So you should be back to their normal procedure there within a year or so?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right, good. Is there any objection to this motion? Second. Hearing none, number 2 is approved. Exhibit 3?
Exhibit 3 is docket R 31106. It's the Commission's rulemaking to study possible development of financial incentives for the promotion of energy efficiency by jurisdictional electric and gas utilities. This is a discussion and possible vote to retain a statewide program administrator, including the approval of transition cost. At the January 2024 B&E, the Commission approved a Phase 2 statewide program to begin in January of 2026 with the goal of hiring a program administrator in August of 2024. With the assistance from Jay Kennedy, staff conducted a request for qualifications this past spring that resulted in 9 companies indicating interest in the Commission's upcoming RFP process. After conducting a bidders conference, staff recommended 7 of those companies proceed to participating in the RFP process. Staff issued RFP 2405 in May, seeking a program administrator for the 2024-2025 transition year, as well as the 4-year program cycle. The RFP sought administrative cost only, and 3 proposals were received. Staff has reviewed those proposals, conducted interviews with all 3 prospective administrators, as well as asked follow-up questions clarifying components of each proposal. The 3 companies submitted proposals are Aptum for $24,499,998, TRC for $37,600,000, and then Frontier Energy of $41,459,677. Staff makes no recommendation as all 3 bidders are qualified, and we do have representatives from each of the companies here that are willing to do a quick presentation, answer any questions you guys may have.
All right.
Mr.
let's,
Chairman?
Let me recognize Commissioner Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to have each of the companies present for, I believe we said 5 minutes around. I know there's some presentations, and so I'm just going to go in the order that I see them, and can we have some representatives from Aptum to the table to make your presentation, and then Frontier, and then TRC.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Scametta?
Yeah, and no problem here in the explanations, but I think, I just find the budgets presented as extraordinary, and I think they are excessive, and I'd like to see if the commission would entertain having these go back out for rebid. I think that they would eventually make an impact on the cost of electricity to the ratepayer. And so I just think that no matter, even if we go with the lowest bid, it would still be excessive. And I'm just overwhelmed by the bid amounts on this, as effectively monitoring a system which these managers would not effectively be conducting. They are basically monitoring a system. So I'd like to ask the commission to consider putting this back out for a rebid.
I object.
Okay.
I object because everybody knows what they've been doing and they're here.
Use your mic, please.
I said, I object. That means I'm not for it. I think that we've talked about this, we've talked it to death. I want to congratulate Mr. Green. He's sort of the founder of all this with energy's problems, and he's harped on it and done a lot of studying. And so it hasn't affected me as much in North Louisiana. We run our own program up there, and we've done a good job with it. But I know there's been problems other places. So I got some questions to ask this guy when I get a chance, but I don't think we need to put it out for bids again.
Okay, let's hear from Atham.
Hi, I'm Michelle Krieger. I'm a program director at Aptum, and I don't know if we have a presentation for the screen. I know you all might have it printed in front of you. Yes.
And you do have hard copies in front of you as well.
Well, actually, Frontier it showed the photo. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. So click on the Frontier one, because I think it's just missed. That's it.
Is it?
Yep.
Full screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, will you do that? Do you know how to do that?
Hi, Joel Freeling from Apton as well. Thank you for inviting us.
So as I mentioned, my name is Michelle Krieger. I'm a program director at Aptum in Louisiana, and I've worked for energy efficiency for Entergy Louisiana and Entergy New Orleans for the last 6 years, and in energy efficiency, education, and resiliency in the state of Louisiana for 13 years. So our company team also includes VEIC and CSRS. Aptum and CSRS are both Louisiana-based companies with headquarters right here in Baton Rouge, over 16 offices across the state, and almost 500 employees in Louisiana. 17 of our employees are currently working in energy efficiency program administration in Louisiana. Our team includes the companies that currently administer statewide programs in 4 state public commissions in Wisconsin and Vermont. And the Aptum team currently administers the largest energy efficiency program in the state for Entergy Louisiana. We've overachieved energy saving goals ever since 2018 when becoming the program administrator for Entergy Louisiana. And just last year, we reached 117% of the energy savings goals across ELL and EGS territories.
I have a question. Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Campbell, will you were first, go ahead.
I don't know what you said. Okay.
You have a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
I've got several questions I'd like to make.
His mic, I don't think it's on,
I
Commissioner.
have some questions I would like for you to answer. There's a great difference between your bid and other people's bids. So I want to be crystal clear here, that you're not lowballing this to come back and ask for more money later. Let's get that out on the table, and you shake your head like this if you're not coming back.
No, we have bid this based on our experience in Wisconsin and other states and believe this is the cost that we would.
Okay, well, that's good, because it's such a, $13 million is a lot of money, and it wouldn't be fair for you to come in and lowball this and come back and say, oh, by the way, I need $13 million more. So, this 25 million you're happy with, right?
Correct.
Okay. What's the work is included in $25 million with it? What do you do for that? What do you do for that much money, which is a
Sure.
pile of money?
Yeah, so there is a transition year plan that includes the final program design, which would engage every commissioner and their office in making sure that the priorities of each commission district are addressed within the final program design. Also, designing programs around meeting every market in the state, every customer class, including, I know we have a diverse state, and really making sure we're reaching customers across each district. It will also include marketing, branding, development of your new statewide program, and so that's really a focus to make sure that that is a recognizable brand for the LPSC to use into the future for a successful program. And also utility coordination, so beyond just the IOUs that have had existing programs, also the co-ops and their customers that would have new access to energy efficiency rebates.
Just to be crystal clear, this is for the entire 5-year period.
Correct. That is the 5-year budget.
And so everybody hears that. We got it. That was my concern, because I've been here sometimes, and sometimes people will give you a bid and say, oh, by the way, we gotta have a little bit more here, we gotta need a little bit more there. So that's not the case with you fellows.
Correct. This is our bid.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Scametta?
So, if you're the successful bidder, you're gonna work for the commission.
That's correct.
So you're not gonna work for Entergy anymore.
That's correct. Well, the way we saw it was the transition year. In January 2026, the statewide program, that Entergy would no longer have a program, that it would be the commission's statewide program.
So you're still gonna work for Entergy during that year?
We don't have a contract yet for 2025 with Entergy.
But you have a contract with them now?
Yes, that's correct,
So
for
you would
the
have a
end of
So
2024.
you'd have a contract with us and a contract with them at the same time?
We don't have a contract yet for 2025 for Entergy Louisiana.
But you have a contract with them now?
Yes, correct, that
And if
ends
you're
at the
the
end of
successful bidder,
2024.
you'd have a contract with us now,
Correct, and that's what we would assume through 2025.
and you don't see a problem with that?
I'm sorry, we don't have yet a contract in 2025 for Entergy Louisiana.
But you have a contract with them now,
Correct.
and you would have a contract with us now,
We would assume so, yes.
and you don't see a conflict.
Well, considering transitioning the largest program to the commission program, no, we don't see a conflict.
But the law would see a problem with it. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Green?
My understanding is, y'all's bid is about 1.2% of the overall cost of the project. Is that about right?
1.2% of the overall statewide?
Yeah.
No, I don't think, are you talking about like in terms of funding incentives for the program?
No, just the overall cost of the program that y'all are gonna be overseeing.
Including statewide incentives and all
yeah.
of that.
I thought it was around 2 billion. Is that wrong? Is that right?
So the budget isn't set yet. That's part of what the program design is going to flesh out.
Okay.
What we have estimated, which is a very large range at the moment, it's based on all of the participating utilities' 5-year average of revenues, also accounting for those that would be opting out. So that's gonna be somewhere between 60 and 100 million.
Okay.
But it's gonna depend again on program design and how we move forward with it.
But the percentage of monitoring the program is commensurate with other states, is that right?
Yeah, typically around the country, it's between 7 and 10%.
Okay.
We came in at 7, I think.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
Only, go back to the first slide, please.
Sure.
I see CSRS, we do work with them. Is that a corporation you're outsourcing underneath your umbrella of companies that are doing work for us? Would that be right?
So, right, there's a partnership with BEIC and CSRS within our proposal. The scope was more towards assisting public entities programs so that each commission district would have a resource with, the option to use that for their public entities.
Okay, and you got VEIC?
That's right.
That's another corporation you're outsourcing to fulfill your, okay. How much, what part of the budget would VEIC be, percentage-wise? Just give me a ballpark figure.
that it's a very small percentage. They would be helping with the final program design, so they also do run Efficiency Vermont in Vermont as a statewide energy efficiency program. So a small percentage.
I think
of
it was
the
less
budget.
than 5.
Less than 5%.
Yeah.
And CSRS, the Public Entities and Community Engagement, what part of your budget would that play?
That was also a small percentage.
Yeah, it's 5 to
About
10%.
5 to-
Which is also another small. So
Right.
basically, most of what you're bidding on, you have staff, you're not, is this being outsourced just for our project, or are you using these companies with Entergy now?
We don't use them with Entergy. VIC is part of our project
Okay,
in
so this
Wisconsin.
is some new, some outsourced help you'll have, okay, that's good, that's what I wanted to understand, thank you.
Anything else you wanted to?
No, just, thank you. Are any other questions?
Thank you. I want to thank you, one, for meeting with me. First, I want to also join Commissioner Campbell in thanking Commissioner Green and really being a leader in this. This is a historic moment. I'm going to say this to all the companies, for a deep southern state to have a third-party administrator in the southeast is really a leader in that neighborhood, and the multiple organizations I've been able to attend. As a commissioner, so many states are watching us, and I want to thank you for your time and your commitment. We've had multiple meetings in my office about your proposal, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask a question about if you could explain for the general public how you plan in this process to do outreach and program design, especially for low-income customers. As you know, I've been a big proponent of talking about the significant need of energy burden in this state, where Louisianians are spending somewhere between 30% of their annual income on their utility bills. A lot of it is due to aging housing infrastructure and not having efficient energy usage in their homes. And so if you could address your approach to handling what I think is the biggest crisis in Louisiana right now, which is our energy burden.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's a large reason why we're interested and want to participate in this statewide program design, is to make sure that the program can serve all Louisiana customers and reduce energy burden, which is, a hardship on many households. So within the transition plan we have here, we do have an outreach and engagement portion, and we have existing relationships with the Alliance for Affordable Energy, trade ally contractors across the state, other Louisiana housing corporations, and others that already provide support, and making sure that we also can complement the program to make sure we can all work together to kind of layer those or braid that funding to make sure to serve those customers.
And I would add, one of the reasons we brought VIC on is they're a leader nationally on serving low-income and disadvantaged communities, and have done, for instance, an energy burden analysis in Wisconsin, so that we can target our resources to those that are most in need. And so we're looking forward to working with them to really help us even do better than what we've done with Entergy so far.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? And thank you for your presentation. Frontier, we have people from Frontier here. Oh, shit, I didn't even know that. My book covered it.
There we go. Make it a little bigger for everybody. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are y'all doing today?
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Amy Martin. I'm Vice President of Consulting and Engineering for Frontier Energy. And with me here today is Derek Newman. He's our Senior Engineering Consultant. So y'all had a lot of questions about budget. We have a presentation here, but if you'd like us to jump straight to that, we'd be happy to.
All right, go ahead.
I got one nod and one go ahead, so we'll just kind of fly through this a little bit, but please interrupt me and we can jump to whatever is best for y'all. So Frontier Energy, we've been working across the energy efficiency spectrum for a lot of years, since the 80s in one way or another. We evaluate, design, implement programs for investor-owned utilities, municipalities, co-ops, on both the electric and the gas side. And we've been working with Cleo and SWEPCO since 2017 in one way or another to help them run their Quick Start program designs. Now, we've really been more in the background, right? We're not administrating those programs or implementing those programs. We really are working mostly in the background. And through all that work with those utilities, we do have a lot of tools and processes currently in place that we think will provide a lot of value as we transition into a statewide program. Because I know one of the goals of the Phase 2 rules is to do this with the least disruption possible, very quickly and efficiently, and try and make what's already working well in the state, continue that and expand it to the areas that don't currently have energy efficiency programs, and then kind of leave some of the stuff that isn't working so great. So the stuff we have right now mainly are deemed savings. We have established deemed savings, which are engineering calculations for every single measure installed in Louisiana across every climate zone. So that's ready to go day one. And for those not familiar with deemed savings, it's really just a way for us to accurately verify that what's being installed in people's homes is actually going to produce demand reduction and energy savings, because that's really important, right? You don't want to spend all this money and not get any energy savings out of it. Our deemed savings engine helps provide a lot of accountability and transparency to this process, because we know that is a big part of this and incredibly important. It tracks in real time exactly how much savings should be claimed, and flags things if they need to be verified. If something wasn't done properly, it's flagged in the system, so we can go check that out. The P3 database is currently being used by Cleo and SWEPCO. We believe we can really roll that out to the other, across the statewide fairly easily. It's the backbone of the programs. It's a great way for the commissioners and commission staff to have a real-time snapshot of what's going on. You'll know exactly what amount of money's been spent, where, what measure's been installed, how much of it was installed, and if we're on our track to hit our goals. And finally, we have the program planning model, where, as I like to say, it's going to help us prioritize priorities. Because there's a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts as part of these Phase 2 rules, and we do want to work with all the commissioners and make sure what we're putting forth to each commission district will work. And so we have done a lot of work already. We're very proud of that work. But this is a different beast. You know, this is a lot bigger. And right now the staffs who's been working on it are based in Austin, Texas. So we know we're going to have to scale up. And that doesn't scare us because we have experienced a lot of growth in a short amount of time recently. What we want to do is we want to hire local Frontier staff. We don't want to outsource to people we don't know or trust. We want to hire people up and teach them the Frontier way. So we're really proud of that. You know, we pride ourselves on providing large firm capabilities with the touch of a small firm. So we want to find the people who already have relationships in the area, because having that expertise and knowing what makes sense in Natchitoches versus what makes sense in Bossier City, you know, will really help us in this endeavor, because we do want to partner with local trade allies, your local air conditioning contractor, your local ceiling insulation installer. They will be the backbone of these programs. You know, and additionally, because we're really good at energy savings and spreadsheets, but maybe not so great at statewide branding and marketing, we've partnered with a local Louisiana firm called Creativity Justified, and they're going to create a statewide brand that people will know and understand, because that's another priority for us, making sure we're empowering customers to know what options exist for them, how they can benefit from these programs. So Creativity Justified is going to help us with that. And also University of Louisiana Lafayette. They've got a great set of engineers down there. We're going to use them to help us train our trade allies. So why are we here today? You know, we've been involved in this process since the beginning and listened into a lot of these meetings. When we see this quote from the RFP that the focus of the rules is to minimize cost to consumers and ensure what customers pay goes directly toward energy efficiency projects, we interpret that to mean maximizing customer incentives. And if you don't remember anything I say today, that's the main story from us today. We want to maximize customer incentives through this process. Our strategy is to target approximately 80% of total spending. You know, previously we were saying we don't know exactly what the total statewide budget is going to be, and that makes this process really difficult for us and y'all. But we're going to target 80% of total ratepayer funds back toward ratepayers. And the way we're going to do that is streamlining administration and implementation, and leveraging the existing success of the Quick Start programs. And I do think it's important to differentiate just very quickly when we generally talk about Quick Start programs. Based on our experience in the state to date, we think there's two main models. One is a third-party administration model that's implementer-led. It's similar to what Entergy Louisiana has been offering. In 2023, program year 9, they spent about 36% of total budget on admin and about 61% on incentives and direct install programs based on their SARPs. SWEPCO, on the other hand, had a utility-led program running what we like to refer to as standard offer programs. And what that really means is that it's driven by the trade allies in the field. They were able to target almost 82% of funding towards customer incentives and only 16% toward admin. And how they were able to do that is just reducing some layers. So instead of having a program a program administrator that then hires a program implementer that then works with the trade allies to give out customer incentives, they're running the programs directly working with the trade allies to do customer incentives. So by reducing those layers, you reduce overhead costs and you can maximize funding directly back to the customers. So that SWEPCO model is very similar to what we're presenting and what we included in our proposal. We want to streamline administration and implementation costs, maximizing incentives. We have confidence we can actually pull this off. We wouldn't be here today if we didn't think we could do this for y'all. We have confidence we can do it because we're already doing it in Texas and other states. Texas has a very strict admin cap, 15% of spending on admin.
Really?
We had to find a way to make this successful.
Really?
And so that's the model that we've included in our proposal. So our job, we're going to be providing all the infrastructure, all the regulatory support, working with all the stakeholders, working with you guys directly. Going to be providing the trade allies all the tools they need to effectively run programs. Because we want them out in the field, out in the communities, talking to customers, educating customers, and actually installing high efficiency equipment. We do know this is a little different. This is not typical of a statewide third-party administrator model. We created something specific for Louisiana because we thought it was the best way to give y'all the best of both worlds. To have a statewide program administrator, have some control over that, find some efficiencies within that, but also maximize customer incentives. So we're gonna do all the branding. We know that's important. We're gonna do the education. But at the end of the day, our priority is getting high efficiency measures installed into homes and businesses across the entire state of Louisiana. So that brings us to the big question. I know we've spoken to a few of y'all, and there's been questions about the cost proposal. We were joking and apologized to Catherine and her team about that because what we put together made it hard for y'all to compare bids. And we do apologize for that, but that's because of our strategy. Because we think the only way to help y'all maximize customer incentives based on our understanding of the Phase 2 rules is to streamline administration and program implementation. When we heard we were the most expensive bid, we were a little surprised. That's not typical. Typically, when we bid on a project, we're not the most expensive. So I don't think that would be the reality if y'all were to trust us and move forward with us in this process. We don't think we would be the most expensive firm, and I'll explain to you why, and if you have questions, please let me know. As we've said before, we don't know what the final statewide budget will be.
Okay.
As you can see on this slide, in the RFP, the commission staff presented the low-end budget estimate of about $64 million based on what you've seen in the past. The high-end budget estimate of $100 million is based on the cost caps y'all put into the rule very wisely, right? So you can't just run this thing up and charge customers a ton of money for the programs. Because we didn't know what it is, and there's so many uncertainties, and the proposal asked us to figure out how you're gonna deal with these uncertainties. We picked middle of the road. So we don't know what it's gonna be. But let's pick right smack dab in the middle, so that we can fulfill what y'all asked for in the proposal. But really, our proposal is not this number. It's not the numbers you see in that middle row. Our proposal is this percentage of spending target. We're gonna target 80% toward customer incentives and a total of 20% towards both admin and implementation. And I think that's an important distinction to make with our proposal. We apologize for giving you something you didn't ask for, but we thought it was the best and only way for y'all to actually maximize customer incentives. So we are proposing to do both. And that's, I do think, a big difference between some of the bids that you've seen. Because if you do choose to hire both an administrator and have them hire implementers, that's where the layering comes in. It's not bad, it works well, they can be great programs. It's just different. And we wanted to offer y'all a different option, with that option being remove the layers, give more money back to the customers. Tries to highlight that fact. Whether it's a high budget estimate, a mid budget estimate, a low, or something totally different, The bright blue color there, that's customer incentives. As you can see, it's the vast majority of spending. So what we proposed, there was a part of the proposal that asked for, tell us the challenges that y'all are gonna face with this, and how you would attack them. One of them was this budget setting process. It's really hard to come into this. Y'all are trying to do some really great things in a short amount of time. And I applaud y'all for that. It's gonna be tricky. It's gonna be hard. I'm not gonna stand up here and lie to you and say, oh yeah, we've got this. It's gonna be really easy and streamlined. It's gonna be tricky. So what we recommended was, let's get through the transition year, really get a good understanding for what will work across all your commission districts, what the priorities within the priorities are, so that we can work together to set realistic statewide budgets. Because we don't want to sit here and say, yeah, we can do all this for all this money, and then either have to come back and ask for more, or ask for 10 times more than we actually need. Because we are cognizant of the fact that these are customer-funded programs. We don't want to ask for a ton of money coming out of their pockets every single month when we're not going to use it. And we also don't want to ask for a lot of funding and then not do good work with it. So that's why our proposal is based on a percentage of whatever we decide that statewide budget should be, and working together to figure out what the total budget is. So with that, I'm probably over my time. I appreciate y'all's patience. Just want to highlight our low-income expertise is near and dear to our heart. We run almost all the Texas low-income programs and have since the beginning, back in 1999, 2000, when they deregulated. So we've learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes, and we found a lot of good solutions. We'll be happy to answer some questions on those. We're big data nerds. We're going to use a lot of data, hopefully as we start to roll out the programs, see what's working, what's not working. Currently, I think we've done projects, we haven't done projects. Our P3 data, P3 tracking system that helps Cleo and SWEPCO, projects across 4 or 5 commission districts as of currently. So, our goal is really just to leverage that quick start success and help y'all roll these out statewide. So, sorry for rushing there towards the end, but we're here and happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
Or a couple of comments, really. My staff did a lot of work to investigate, possible contracts, and we found that SWEPCO and Cleo, you did an excellent job. And what was really interesting was 16% operations costs. And of course, on your quote, you're talking about you think you can do it for 20, and you can't bid 20% to start up on day one as we grow this thing. When we look at these numbers of 20-something million versus 40-something million, it's hard to get 3 votes for 40 million, So it's just that's life as a public service commissioner. But
Yes,
I sure would love to have you have the program duplicate what you did at SWEPCO, and I wish we could talk you into coming in and just do it. You're gonna do it for 20% of whatever the budget is. Right now, we don't know what the budget is, so.
Yes, and we'll give credit to SWEPCO for all the good work they've done on that. That was a utility-led program, and they put a lot of effort into that, and we were happy to help them through that, providing them the tools and some consulting services to help make it a success. Because I know these programs are important to the utilities. They're their customers, and we feel very invested in these programs at this point now.
I just hate to see us spend a lot of money on administration where we could be insulating people's homes instead, and for all of the commissioners, I'd like to, once we go back and look at, the future of this program, I think if we can't get 20% administration fee, hold it down to that, we've got a 30-day clause, and we can terminate a contract and look at another one. So I'll stop right there. Anybody else? Commissioner Lewis?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you once again for your proposal. It was great having multiple conversations throughout your interview, the RFQ bidders conference, and then our one-on-one that we had yesterday. Francine was trying to make sure we didn't meet, but I'm glad we were able to squeeze in a meeting. And so I have talked to a lot of the programs that you implement, and we've heard amazing things. And so no matter what we choose, I hope you stay engaged in the system. But I really wanted to, and I know you touched on it briefly, But same question that I posed to Aptum about your low-income programs, especially around that energy burden. And so I'll just give you a few seconds if there's anything else you wanted to highlight on that point, since that's kind of my main focus, especially with this third-party administrator, is how we reduce energy usage for Louisiana residents.
Yeah. It's near and dear to our heart because we do so much of it, and we do have a lot of experience in the area. I think the important things to remember with the low-income programs is there's a lot of different designs, and we like to say we have a lot of quivers, arrows in our quivers in our arrows, whichever way you say it, with how to tackle them. So you run single-family programs where that customer does not pay a dime. They do not pay a dime, and you go in and you do things that are really gonna help them. You know, our goal with our programs is we're not going and giving them a lot of LED light bulbs. LED light bulbs are great, but we take more of a holistic approach, because when the next hurricane comes through and the lights are out for a little while, the LED bulb's not gonna do you a whole lot. But the ceiling insulation will, the new windows will, the air sealing will. So that's kind of what the single-family programs are focused on. I know in the past, B&E, there's been a lot of conversation about multifamily programs and how you manage and control for those. So we do run programs where the incentive will go to the building owner, because we're asking them, and they have to, pay into the program as well. So if we're using ratepayer funds to give to a building owner, that building owner is also paying in. And there are also situations where we'll have them sign a contract and say, okay, we're gonna give you these funds. It's gonna help benefit the renters, because they're gonna have more comfort and lower energy bills. But don't go run off and increase the rent. So we'll put that in writing and say you cannot increase the rent as a result of these programs. Now, it's not a perfect world. We can't control everything, but at least we try, because we recognize that's a potential issue. And our goal is to make these things, as on the up and up as we possibly can from our position. But yeah, so you said a few seconds. That's more than a few seconds. Did I miss anything major?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify maybe one thing on that multifamily model. So obviously, there's a lot of different types of programs you can design for these low-income targeted programs. Direct install, single family, but for these multifamily programs, we found that approximately 15% or so are owned by not-for-profit owners, and then the other 85% are for-profit owners. And so we kind of take a different approach for those two. Amy touched on it a little bit. I want to just make it clear that the not-for-profit owners don't have to invest any of their own capital. That they operate very similarly to all the low-income program designs. But one of the more innovative things we've done for the for-profit owners is create a competitive bidding process where we have a scorecard, and they will submit an inventory of the different energy efficiency measures they plan to do. It will automatically calculate the savings and benefits associated with those measures. And then the other main difference is they'll have to say how much of their own capital they're willing to invest. And that will lower, the more they're willing to invest, that will improve the cost effectiveness. And then we rank all those bids against one another. And we start from the top of the list, and those most cost effective projects get the program budget. And so by having them invest into that project, that helps to disincentivize a potential turnaround and increase the rent. So that, combined with the language in the agreements that they're asked to sign to not raise rents or not use the improvements made through the program to justify raising rents for a certain period of time, typically maybe 5 years, are ways we try to combat that.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Green?
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Okay, do we have,
I have a motion. I want to thank everyone for very.
TRC? Is there
Yeah, we have one
TRC?
more
Oh,
company.
TRC here?
Yes, sir, they are. So,
TRC,
Joel, if y'all
you'll
wanna-
come forward?
Thank y'all again for
Thank
having us.
y'all.
We appreciate it.
What's that? Is it on you? You got two of them?
That's my fault.
Oh, that's after.
Next slide. Are we ready? Yep.
You ready for us? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity today to come talk about ways to lower ratepayer money. We've had the opportunity to meet with a number of you commissioners and staff, and we tried to outline our vision for this project for the future, and we want to continue to talk about that today. But we do appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and talk to us about this. Also like to give a shout out to Catherine and her team for the great job that they've done going through the RFP process. I'm Joel McManus. I'm one of the senior managers of TRC from a business development and account management standpoint. Colleague here, Ian, you can introduce yourself.
Yes, hi everyone. Ian Metzger. I'm a Senior Director of Strategic Transition and Deployment. I am responsible for our program designs, portfolio designs across the country. I'm also responsible for transition.
And Allison.
Hi, Allison Cantrell. I'm our Senior Director of Sales Enablement within TRC, so I work really closely with Ian and Joel's team to make sure that we are best serving our clients.
So just real quick, who is TRC? So we're an international energy and environmental management company. We have offices throughout the U.S. and internationally. We have 2 offices here in Louisiana, one in Baton Rouge and one in Alexandria. For Louisiana, we're not currently doing energy efficiency programs, but we are working with the State Department of Transportation. We're doing engineering for the Transportation Department. You can see our size here. We have over 900 plus energy efficiency experts across 37 states, 50 plus years of experience, a number of KWH that we've saved annually through TRC programs. We actually have in Louisiana the 76 employees across the state. In addition, we have TRC Salutes, which is a military veteran bring into the private sector program. That is run by Robert Baggett, who is based out of Lake Charles. We'll be certainly utilizing that program if we were selected to work with you on this. So one of the things I think we could all agree that all 3 companies here today are qualified to do the work. We just have different ways to approach it. So we wanted to kind of talk about our model and the way that we view going into this. And, number one, we are a national administrator, which gives us a unique insight into how other states and other utilities have done programs similar to this throughout the country. One of the things, and I think Francine kind of hit on this, and we agree, we do want to use a local focus. We do want to encourage local contractors, local Louisiana businesses to participate in the program. We want incentive dollars to flow to those local contractors. In addition, one of our primary focuses in standing up the program will be to hire local. So we'll do local hiring fairs. We do want to try to get Louisianans on our team. So we'll have a really emphasis on hiring local. We are statewide administration experts. We'll talk specifically about the program that we've done for New Jersey, which is very similar to what you're trying to accomplish here. We do have our own in-house data management system. The luxury of having an in-house system is that you're not reliant on third-party outsourcing, so you can control the schedule and you can control the cost. That would be Ian's team. That would be working with you and your team in terms of kind of after the implementation, what does the programs look like? What are the design of the programs, et cetera. And Allison, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so Joel just mentioned our work with the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities. We actually went through the exact same process with them that you all have. Our staff helped them move from utility-led programs into commission-led programs. And we have since supported them in evaluating the complete portfolio across the state and identifying which programs ran most efficiently through utility-led services versus commission-led services, and helped them coordinate kind of breaking the portfolio in half so that there was a mix between commission and utility-led programs. From that experience, we understand how important this transition is. It's a lot of collaboration, not just with utilities, although that's a huge part of it. We also have to be incredibly engaged with you and your staff and have a very detailed understanding of what your priorities are and where we need to focus these programs. as well as all of the community organizations like Together Louisiana and other stakeholders that you all work with, all the time. We want to make sure that during this transition, the result is a portfolio of programs that's going to best serve all Louisianans. So, the way that we work with New Jersey is not just as an administrator. We really try to be partners to the commissioners, help them as their priorities evolve. We have tools where we can evaluate what-if scenarios. If you feel that we need to support additional high-burden energy customers, we can run what-if scenarios on, how's that going to affect the cost-effectiveness of the overall portfolio. So our goal is to give you the information that you all need to make the right decisions for your constituents. And I'll go really quickly through this. I was already talking about several of these things on the last slide, but our experience in New Jersey has really helped us focus on 4 separate items. So I talked about stakeholder engagement. That's a huge priority for us during the transition and throughout the delivery period. We meet regularly with community organizations in New Jersey, and we would apply the same approach here. And then incorporating community-focused programs. Joel talked about TRC salutes that are National Guard, retired National Guard-led program. Robert Baggett, he lives in Lake Charles. We actually hired our first veteran through the program in Louisiana, and we've since hired hundreds throughout the United States. But he is very excited and committed to working with us to hire veterans for this program. And then we have an apprenticeship program where we bring in people who are looking for their second chances or big breaks into energy efficiency, and we use 90 days to train them up on how to work through an energy efficiency program. So they're both really cool programs that we're very proud of and would love to apply here in Louisiana. Ian's going to talk more about our ability to integrate other funds with these programs so that we can maximize the benefit to all of your constituents, and also how we transition from the utility-led programs into commission-led programs.
All right, thank you. So during the transition, there's a lot of things that happen. I'm not going to hit on all of them, but I'm going to hit a couple key points for you. One is understanding your priorities, the priorities of each district. Understanding that, setting that up in a data management system so that we can track to the goals in each district as well. So this data management system sets up the workflows and the quality assurance protocol that a program will follow. And so that is extremely important. It also provides visibility into the performance of that program in real time to all of the commissioners and stakeholders. We've also developed some additional services, and I encourage you to look at our annual component summary in our bid. It shows that we are providing the administrative functions that are asked and additional technical support services beyond what is asked. And so I encourage you to look at that for cost competitiveness and value for the bid that we provided. And today we're talking about transition and our transition cost and the value we're providing above and beyond administrative services. I think could encourage you to pick us. So one other additional thing I want to highlight is the braiding. There's a lot of federal funds that are flowing into the state of Louisiana. What we want to do is set up in our system workflows and integrations that go directly to the DOE-funded programs so that we can collaborate and braid funds that are also targeted at energy-burdened communities. So that is extremely important, and our bid includes additional integrations for that to happen. So next, touching quickly on program design, we have a program design tool that offers transparency, collaboration, continuous improvement, the what-if scenarios. It's been reviewed independently by evaluators in industry. It has been included in testimony in states across the country. And it calculates the cost effectiveness that ensures that it puts downward pressure on rates for all people in Louisiana. So that's the most important part of that, and that's the cost control structure using the standard practice manual that would be needed to prove that is happening. So one thing we do, and I'll move quickly through this, but very data-driven approach to our program designs. We look at all the different customer classes. We look at all the different districts for the demographics and the priorities of each district. And we'll design the program with the unique needs for all the commissioners. With that in mind, we'll overcome specific barriers. We'll design incentives rates that are beneficial to the energy burden customers as well as other customers. And we'll target geographically, we'll target neighborhood, community, we'll incorporate pilots, and we'll reach the entire state rather than just the major cities or major IOU territories. You want to talk about capture?
Yeah, so in addition to using data to design our programs, we also use it to keep them up to date with your priorities. It's the backbone of everything that we do, and we use data visualization tools to make sure that we can clearly communicate how the programs are going with you, your staff, and the public. In New Jersey, for example, we put together detailed quarterly reports that are posted online so that all of the state has access to them and can see how things are progressing with the program and make sure that there's the transparency to see how the funds are being used, which I think is really important in these programs. And then, Ian's team takes that real-time data combined with feedback from the market and continues to tweak designs to make sure that we can deliver the best programs for the state. We can skip this one because I already talked about it a little bit. And then we also have a tool called Analyze EJ, Analyze Environmental Justice. It's a proprietary tool for TRC, and we use it to best target local communities based on their different characteristics, whether it's what percentage of the community speaks non-English as a first language. We can also integrate utility data into this tool so we can target those customers with the highest energy burden. But we use this tool as well as other available data to make sure that we will serve all of Louisiana and that we do it in a way that will align with their needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and we know that we have to tailor our engagement based on their unique characteristics.
Yeah, so in kind of closing, one of the, I know price has come up a lot. Our understanding was that the transition year was really the price that was going to be locked in, and that with a lot of unknowns about after the transition year, we provided budget guidance. We probably over-guided, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you the cap, the maximum amount of money. And we certainly are, and our leadership has already indicated that we're willing to negotiate price based on further discussions around scope and definition, et cetera. So wanted to let you be aware of that. We also have proposed in our pricing the IT integrations for grading funds. I think that combining your program funds with DOE funds is going to be critical to be able to maximize all of the dollars that will go back out to the Louisiana ratepayers. So we've already accounted for that in our systems, and so that won't be an additional cost for you. We've already touched that we have done this before, so we have a lot of experience in how it works. We have our in-house data management system, and we have our internal program design experts. So with that, we're certainly open to questions, and again, we appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you today.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lewis?
Thank you so much, and you've already answered the question that I've asked the other two, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but I wanted to thank you for also meeting with me, engaging with me. I talked with my dear friend, Commissioner Cristodolo in New Jersey, who had nothing but wonderful comments to say other than hopefully we don't steal his staff from New Jersey to come here. But I wanted to thank you, and just a general comment while I have the microphone before I give it to my other colleagues. I first want to thank and praise our staff, especially Catherine, who has led us through this serious process. It's been multi-months of soliciting bids, multiple conversations. I know I have probably bothered her every single day with a random energy efficiency question. And we got down to these three finalists, and I want to, really put
Okay.
highlight Catherine's involvement in this process. I do not think we would be here at this moment without you, Catherine, so I wanted to thank you. I also want to thank Phil and Leah, who have been our consultants, who have really gone, and I know that I've been very much in the weeds in this process since I got here on the commission. I've sat through all of the proposals, the 9 bids, the RFP, bidders conference, the 3 interviews. I think I've read over 1,000 pages. I know my staff has gotten multiple questions from me through this, and I will just say for UTRC, for Frontier, and Aptum, I am extremely pleased with the 3 bids that we have. I do not think we will make a bad decision today. It's a tough decision, but I am confident no matter what me and my colleagues decide to do, we will have a premier program because all 3 of you have submitted, I think, excellent proposals that will lead us into the future on energy efficiency. So before I finish, I just wanted to say that no matter what decision we make, I want all 3 companies to know this has been a very thorough process, and I don't think we'll make a bad choice today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Green?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody. This has been my baby, and as I wind down my time here, I'm just very grateful for all the hard work. You know, each year, according to EIC, I think between residential and commercial, we spend about $7 billion a year in electricity. And so if we had 1% savings, that's 70 million. And so the savings alone are going to pay for whichever one we choose. And you know, something that Commissioner Campbell harps on a lot is we need more bidders. We need very qualified bidders. I am so impressed with the thoroughness of these bids. And so this is an exciting time for Louisiana, for the ratepayers, and for the future. And so I agree with Commissioner Lewis that this is all great work. Thank you all, by the way. And with that, I want to go ahead and make a motion to accept a little bit of Aptum.
So, I'm sorry.
I still have some more discussion before we go to that, move on to that.
And I would like to clarify, Commissioner
Hold up a minute, wait, I'm not, I got a question for you.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can finish questions. Mine's procedural, so you can finish your
Okay.
questions, Chair.
How long have y'all been in New Jersey?
Since 2009.
What's that?
9.
What kind of percentage of operating costs do you have on your budget there?
Our administrative costs are capped at 10% there.
How much?
10%.
10%?
Yes.
Wow. And so you have, you got operation and you got management. What about the other figure? Is it about 10% also?
That covers all of our administrative costs. There are programs that we implement on behalf of the state that would be separate from that. So, you know, when we were looking at our costs here, the typical administrator role that we play in New Jersey is a slightly smaller scope than what it is here. We do other roles, but under the implementation.
Are you doing any states in the southeastern United States? Y'all working with any states in the south?
We work in Texas, and we also work in South Carolina and North Carolina with Duke Energy.
Okay.
And we work across Tennessee with the Tennessee Valley Authority.
All right.
Any?
And Tennessee, TVA covers several states that do include some states in the southeast as well, and Oklahoma.
All right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine, you had something?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to clarify, Commissioner Skrmetta, was that a motion that you
No.
made or just a request?
No, it wasn't a motion.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because we need
Are
to
you sure now?
resolve that. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Green made a motion.
Yes, sir. Commissioner,
I'll second.
okay.
Okay, Commissioner Green made a motion to accept the low bid of Aptium,
Request roll call vote.
second by Commissioner Campbell. Roll call vote. Commissioner Skrmetta?
I'm going to vote yes for the low bid of Aptum, reserving my rights to bring this matter up at a future date.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Francis says yes. Okay. So let's move on. I want to, Commissioner Green has asked us to bring up exhibit number 10. If there's any no objection, we'll go ahead and move on to exhibit 10.
Yes, sir. So exhibit number 10 is a docket to be determined. It is Dixie Electric Membership Corporation's request for approval of a formula rate plan, modifications to the cooperative's terms and conditions, and an interim rate relief. It's a discussion and possible vote to retain Resolve Energy Consulting. DEMCO submitted a notice filing to the commission indicating its plan to file an application seeking a new formula rate plan as well as modifications to its terms and conditions. At the commission's September 2019 B&E, Resolve Energy Consulting was retained to assist staff in the analysis of DEMCO's request for its current FRP as well as the 3 test years. Resolve was also retained to conduct an investigative audit on DEMCO and review the cooperative's request for emergency rate relief pursuant to its extraordinary cost provision within its FRP. Given Resolve's knowledge and experience with not only DEMCO's FRP, the test years, but also the managerial and financial activities of the cooperative, staff solicited Resolve to continue assisting the commission by reviewing DEMCO's upcoming request. Resolve responded to staff solicitation with a proposed budget, of $80,000 in fees and $4,000 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $84,000. Staff recommends that the commission retain Resolved Energy in the amount of $80,000 in fees and $4,000 in expenses for a total not to exceed budget of $84,000.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any motion is made and a second. Is any discussion? Hearing none. Any objection? So, number 10 is passed. And let's move on to number 9, if it's okay with the rest of the crew.
Exhibit number 9 is also another to be determined docket. It's Entergy Louisiana's request for proposals for long-term developmental combined cycle combustion turbine resources. It's a discussion and possible vote to retain an outside consultant. Staff issued an RFP seeking a consultant to help us with this upcoming docket and received 4 qualifying bids. The first is London Economics International of $96,225 in fees and $3,608 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $99,833. The second is United Professionals Company of $132,500 in fees and $1,500 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $134,000. Third was Mitsubishi Electric Power Products of $157,500 in fees and $2,500 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $160,000. And the fourth was Critical Technology Consulting of $288,070 in fees and $8,000 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $296,070. Staff makes no recommendation as all bids are qualified.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the bid of United Professionals as prior experience in combined cycle issues for the stated bid amount.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Scametta to accept UPC number 2, seconded by Commissioner Green. Is there any discussion or any objection? Hearing none, United Professionals is approved for exhibit number 9. And let's move on to exhibit 4.
So exhibit number 4 is docket number R34247. This is the commission's rulemaking to consider changes to the commission's general order dated October 29, 2008, which was docket number R26172, subdocket C, which is known as the commission's market-based mechanisms order to incorporate formal complaint procedures. It's a discussion and possible vote on a final proposed rule. Staff report and recommendation addresses issues raised in 3 separate commission proceedings, all proposing amendments to the commission's MBM order. In lieu of 3 separate proceedings moving forward simultaneously, staff combined all proposed amendments into one rule so that forward-looking changes to the MBM order were consistent, issued at the same time, and that the rules attached to any final commission order were available in one location. The 3 initial dockets were docket R34003, which was to consider how to account for intermittent resources within the MBM process. Docket number R34247, which was to address whether certain issues should be waived if not raised prior to a final RFP for generating resources. And docket number R35462, which was initiated to investigate a number of issues related to customer-centered options in the docket where staff proposed modifications intended to ensure that RFPs issued included a broad spectrum of supply-side options. On March 1st of 2024, staff issued a report in docket number R34247, which explained and included a proposed modified MBM rule that addressed the issues from all 3 dockets and sought comments from interveners. Staff filed its final report and recommendation on August 22nd of 2024, wherein staff recommendations are summarized as follows. The new proposed rule would exempt conventional resources with less than a 50 megawatt summer nameplate rating and intermittent resources with less than a 50 megawatt nameplate rating. The proposed changes to the MBM rule would now require any objections to the type, location, or size of generation resources solicited in an RFP to occur during the initial RFP process, and failure to provide the notice will preclude that party from raising those issues during the certification phase. And then finally, staff's proposed rules would require the RFP process to be as broad as possible and to solicit all available market options, including conventional, intermittent, hybrid, and storage resources. In response to utilities' concerns that there needs to be some flexibility in that process because it could be inefficient to always solicit all resources, the proposed rules allow for some flexibility for utilities to limit the options solicited if the limitation is supported by the utility's IRP and supported by sworn testimony. However, in no event will the utility be authorized to limit the RFP solicitation to self-build or utility-owned resources. It is staff's intention that the Commission's adoption of any of these rules would only apply prospectively after the issuance of an order in this proceeding. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the final proposed rule filed into the record on August 22nd of 2024.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Scamata and seconded by Commissioner Green. Is there any discussion or opposition? Hearing none. Number 4, Exhibit 4 is in the books. Number 5.
Exhibit number 5 is docket numbers U29203, U30981, U32764, U35991, and U36350. This is Legacy Entergy Gulf States and Legacy Entergy Louisiana, as well as Entergy Louisiana's applications for recovery of rates and costs related to Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, Gustav, Ike, Isaac, Laura Delta Zeta, Winter Storm Uri, and Ida. This is a discussion and possible vote to accept and approve the annual report of the Louisiana Utilities Restoration Corporation to the Louisiana Public Service Commission for the fiscal year 2024, including the annual operating budget for fiscal year 25 and the interim and annual compiled financial statements for fiscal year 24. As required by orders number U29203, U30981, U32764, U35991, and U36350, as well as the restoration law, the Board of Directors of the Louisiana Utilities Restoration Corporation submitted its fiscal year 24 annual report to the Commission on August 29, 2024. Therein, the LURC Board reported on the following topics: status of and ongoing compliance activities related to Entergy Louisiana, Entergy Gulf States, Katrina, Rita, Winter Storm Uri bond securitizations, status of Entergy New Orleans Storm Reserve Fund securitizations, status of Entergy Louisiana's Hurricane Ida securitization, status of reports from and submissions to the Legislative Auditor and the Division of Administration's Office of Statewide Reporting and Accounting Policy, ongoing activities required to maintain LURC's corporate status, and matters reported to the LURC Board of Directors during the fiscal year. Staff recommends acceptance and approval of the fiscal year 2024 annual report of LURC to the Commission, including the annual operating budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, and interim and compiled annual financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Move to approve the LURC report.
Second.
Moved for approval by Commissioner Scamata, seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Any discussion or objection? Hearing none, it's passed.
Exhibit number 6 is docket number U36190. This is Entergy Louisiana's application for certification and approval of a 2021 solar portfolio, Rider Go Green option, cost recovery related relief. It's a discussion and possible vote on staff's report and recommendation. In order number U36190, the Commission approved Entergy's proposal of a portfolio of 4 solar resources in the Go Green option tariff to allow Entergy customers to participate in solar resources to satisfy sustainable energy demands. Entergy filed a report on July 1st of 2024 pursuant to clauses 18 and 19 of the order, requesting Commission approval of updating pricing for the GGO tariff to include the cost of an additional resource, the Sterlington facility, which is a 49-megawatt solar resource that the Commission approved in February of this year in order number U36685. Staff reviewed the updated GGO tariff pricing information included with Entergy's request, analyzed follow-up data supplied, and identified some concerns that was discussed with Entergy. Those concerns were addressed, however, to coordinate the commercial start date of the resource with the timing of the resource's inclusion in the GGO subscriptions and calculations of the updated GGO tariff subscription fee prices. On August 30th of 2024, staff filed its report and recommendation, wherein staff described its review of Entergy's filings and recommended that the Commission approve the inclusion of the Sterling facility in the initial GGO tariff pricing calculation as corrected and revised by Entergy in response to staff's inquiries. Staff recommends that the Commission accept staff's report and recommendation filed into the record on August 30th of 2024.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Moved for acceptance by Commissioner Scamata, seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Any objection or hearing none, it's passed. Number 7.
Exhibit number 7 is docket number U36502. This is Cleo Power's application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity for Cleo to enter into a proposed power purchase agreement between Dole Hills Solar and Cleo Power and an authorization to recover associated charges and rates. It's a discussion and possible vote on an uncontested stipulated settlement. On August 3rd of 2022, Cleo filed its application, which was published in the Commission's official bulletin with timely interventions by Packaging Corporation of America and International Paper Company, Cabot Corporation, and Alliance for Affordable Energy. On March 28, 2024, Cleo filed a supplemental application, which was also published in the Commission's official bulletin, and no additional interventions were received. After extensive negotiations, Cleo staff and the interveners were able to enter into an uncontested stipulated settlement, which was filed into the record on August 23rd, 2024. The major terms of that settlement are as follows. The Commission should authorize the amended and restated solar PPA as in the public interest. The Commission should authorize Cleo Power's tie line project and find that Cleo Power's supplemental application meets the requirements of the transmission siting order. Cleo will construct, own, operate, and maintain the tie line as a transmission owner and is responsible for the cost of that construction. And the Commission should authorize Cleo Power's GO Cleo rider. As there are no unresolved issues, staff recommends that the Commission accept the uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record on August 23rd, 2024.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman. I just want to applaud Cleo for what they are doing here. As you know, projects located at existing points of interconnections are always have a leg up in economic viability, odds of completion, and timely to operate. But I think this model adds a serious shift to cleaner resources, and I think this is a great way to get low-cost, low-carbon generation online in a very good manner. And so I just want to give kudos to Cleo for this endeavor, and so I just wanted to put that with my second.
Motion by Commissioner Scametta, seconded by Commissioner Lewis to accept exhibit number 7 is passed. Exhibit 8.
Exhibit number 8 is docket number U37154. This is Claiborne Electric Cooperative's Formula Rate Plan Annual Report filing for test year 2023. It's a discussion and possible vote on a joint report and draft order, and this was exhibit 23 last month. On April 1st of 2024, Claiborne filed its 23 FRP filing, wherein it reported that its calculated modified debt service coverage ratio fell below the 1.7 to 1.95 bandwidth provided in its FRP, therefore should receive an increase in rates of approximately $3.4 million in order to bring them back to the midpoint MDSC of 1.85. Staff reviewed the filing submitted by Claiborne, including a review of the company's application, documentation for the changes in expenses in the rate base, and made adjustments causing the MDSC for Claiborne to be approximately 1.39, which still falls below the prescribed bandwidth, and therefore a reset to the midpoint of 1.85 is necessary. Staff recommend that the cooperative be permitted to reset rates to the midpoint, which would be a revenue increase of $3,319,265 for the test year. Staff filed its report on June 24th of 2024, which was after the deadline prescribed in the FRP, but was filed without objection of Claiborne. As such, staff is requesting that the Commission recognize the late filed report. On June 26th of this year, Claiborne filed correspondence into the record indicating that it agreed with staff's report. Staff recommends that the Commission, 1, recognize the late filed staff report, and 2, accept the joint report and issue the draft order filed into the record on July 25th of 2024.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Scametta, seconded by Commissioner Lewis. That's in Commissioner Campbell's district. I think, see if there's any discussion.
Oh, yeah, I'll be right there.
Okay, so we'll wait for Commissioner Campbell to get up here, see if he has any questions for anybody. See Ms. Cantro back there in the back. She can't wait to get up here and give us the details. So, Commissioner Campbell, you got any questions about Claiborne?
No, I'm for it.
Okay, all right. Well, then
They do a good job up there, and
I know they're chomping at the bit to get up here and give you an explanation, but we'll go ahead and pass. It's looks like it's unanimous.
Well, that's good.
So number 8 is in the files. Number 9.
We've disposed of 9 and 10, so we're moving on to 11, which is our reports, resolutions, discussions. Under this exhibit item, we only have 2 ratifications. The first is a discussion and possible vote to ratify votes cast by Chairman Francis, acting as the commission's representative on the Regional State Committee of the Southwest Power Pool. This matter is on the agenda for ratification of 2 votes cast on August 5th of 2024 by Chairman Francis. Staff did follow the protocol set forth in Special Order 17/2019 to consult with the Vice Chair and the Secretary prior to the vote. The votes are as follows. The first voting item approves an amendment to the SPP tariff to implement a historical performance metric for conventional resources during critical system periods. And the second voting item established separate planning reserve margins for the summer and winter seasons. Commissioner Francis voted in favor of both of these voting items. Staff recommends that the commission ratify Chairman Francis's votes cast on August 5th, 2024 as the commission's representative to the SPP-RSC.
Move to ratify the votes of Chairman Francis.
Second.
And I'll have to abstain on the vote. Is there any opposition to that vote? I might say on this reserve margins for electricity is we want to make sure the lights don't go out. And we've used to be a reserve margin for the whole year. Now it's a reserve margin for winter and summer. And we have gotten close to some turning the lights out sometime because we didn't have enough generation. So it's part of just making sure we keep the lights on. We're raising our margins. That means we're going to have to build more power stations, whether it be wind or solar or good old natural gas. So just wanted to give you all that explanation for that vote. So thank you. Right.
So we have one more vote ratification. It's a discussion and possible vote to ratify interventions of the commission and RTO related or other FERC proceedings. And this is done by Stone Pigment and UPC on the commission's behalf. Due to the short deadlines allowed for these interventions, if advanced commission approval is not possible, the executive secretary, on the recommendation of either UPC or Stone Pigment or on his own determination, may authorize these interventions subject to commission ratification. Staff recommends that the commission ratify two actions this month. The first is the filing at the Supreme Court in docket number 24895 et al., which is the commission's response in support of applications to stay the greenhouse gas emissions appeal. And then the second is a petition for review of orders in FERC docket number ER 24-153 regarding sunflower highway byway cost allocations. And that was a petition to review filed in the DC Circuit Court of 24-1282. And Vice Chairman Francis, I know Lewis does oppose the Supreme Court stay, so we will need a roll call vote on that one. We'll have to take them up separate.
Well, I'll put the motions on the floor to ratify both, but we can do them independently. So first one I'll do is to ratify the Supreme Court docket intervention.
And I'll object to that.
So roll call requested.
Wait a minute, I wanna know what the hell we're doing. How about that? Talking about the Supreme Court, this, that, and the other. How about a little explanation before we
Sure.
just
I
run through this,
will
okay?
give you a high level, and if you have questions, I know Stone Pigment is here
Give
to
me
help.
a common level, not a
Okay.
high level. I'm not interested in law school level. Just tell me what's going on, okay?
So the Environmental Protection Agency issued greenhouse gas emission rules. Part of that is gas emission rules that are going to apply to our generating units here in the state. It will cause them to either increase cost to comply with those rules, or have to retire early because they can't comply with those rules. What the commission intervened in is a stay at the United States Supreme Court, asking the United States Supreme Court to say, EPA, you cannot enforce your rules yet until all of these appeals and objections to your rules are complete.
And plus,
That-
Chevron deference is now gone, so it's a whole different story now.
Correct. So all we did was we're saying we support the stay of the greenhouse gas, pause on the greenhouse gas rules until all litigation is over related to those rules, so our utilities don't incur cost or retire early based on those rules in case they get overturned.
How long could that be, 200 years or 300 years or something like that? I'm not for this.
No, it's a matter of
I'm for
just,
the rule.
well, if we don't do it, we're in a position where we could impact costs for Louisiana ratepayers, and we could have some real, I'm sorry. Is that better? Okay.
Yes, sir.
If we don't ratify this, we've already done it. We've already taken the legal action. And if we don't do it, we put ourselves at risk of costing Louisiana ratepayers more money.
Correct.
And that's the real risk associated with this, because we would have increased fines associated on our power generation resources brought on us by the federal government. That the idea behind this is that we would get a stay on this enforcement until such time as all the rules are laid out in a final procedure to where we really know what's going to happen, and we're not just going early to get these rules put on us. So it's important that we do ratify this.
And thank you, and Mr. Commissioner Campbell, just for the reason I have underlined, supported the EPA's greenhouse gas emissions. I take a contrary view to the brief that we have filed. I have some disagreements with that our electric grid that relies primarily on natural gas, and there are better paths forward. I think prioritizing energy efficiency, working closely on flexible demand planning with large customers, building renewable and storage where possible. I know these solutions are not easy, but I do urge our utility companies and their partners to do the hard work of meeting these challenges creatively rather than fighting for the status quo. And I think we should not double down on the history. And so I'm just kind of being consistent where I've been on this procedure and supporting the underlying rule of the EPA. And so that's my objection, is because I've objected to the lawsuit from the very beginning. So I support the rule, and I would like to see the rules go into effect. So
And
that's just context
effectively,
for where I stand.
this is an attack on the natural gas industry. It's an attack on the coal industry. It's an attack on any type of generation from either source. So I think I'd pause before I'd be in opposition to it.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and not to be argumentative, but we put off a lot of things a long time in Louisiana. You know, we just put it off and make excuses and this and that and the other, and we, I remember so well, nobody believed in climate change. I mean, that was a terrible thing to talk about. It was all a hoodoo. And now we're asking people to clean it up, and now there's always objections to doing things that we need to do. So,
Well, we've taken this.
Let me get through, please.
Okay.
Let me get through. Basically, we're going against EPA, right? That's the deal. And telling us, give us more time to clean all this up, correct?
Not necessarily. I think the way I appreciate it is they've got rules out there that they want to enforce while they're being challenged. There's people
Correct.
challenging those rules. So just like, and you know, it's one of these things in the past where do we want them to be able to implement the rules before the challenge process is done? So we in other states appealed it, and the appeal of their rules is going on right now. They want to still be able to implement them. Well, so if a court, this happened with Cleo with Matts, I believe, in the past, where Cleo had to put in some
It's basically
some
saying.
things to their
right.
system that ultimately were
Right.
thrown out in court. So they incurred the cost. We allowed them to recover it, but the ultimate rule the EPA passed was thrown out as being not a valid rule.
Right, and if we're paying the federal government fine money, and we can then ask the federal government to give the money back, which is good luck with that.
So,
Right.
but I think what we're saying here is, look, while this challenge of the rules is going, let's just pause. Let's not allow the EPA to start enforcing these rules until we know whether those rules are going to be upheld or not.
I'm glad you brought up Cleo. Cleo, we all met up in Alexandria, house full of people, every politician from the governor on down, had a great idea about carbon capture. Mr. Scametta might know about that. And all of a sudden now they're calling off the dogs, saying it costs too much money. You know what I mean? So there's two sides to every story. It was the best thing we've ever done, and I wasn't that excited about it because I don't think there's any real proof of it. But anyway, how onerous is this rule? That's what I want to know. How much, objectively, can you tell me, Brandon, how onerous is this rule? Is it that bad, or is it somewhat bad.
I'm gonna,
Dana's gonna give you layman's terms.
yes.
Yeah, okay. You were at the meeting?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The meeting with Cleo.
No, who do you represent?
Oh, I represent Louisiana Public Service Commission staff. My name is Dana Shelton with the law firm of Stone Pigment, and we worked on this, this brief for the commission. And I just wanted to point out to you, Commissioner Francis, just so you're fully aware, this rule would have all Louisiana utilities require them to install carbon capture technology on their fossil fuel plants. So natural gas, to the extent we have any coal left, would have to install that very technology that Cleo abandoned and had to write off millions of dollars because they determined, you probably know better than I do, that it wasn't workable. So one of the points that we make in the brief is that as of now today, the carbon capture and sequestration technology is not proven, and it's very expensive. So if these rules, which could well be overturned depending on what happens in the election, if they go forward now, the utilities are going to have to spend money to comply. They can't wait and see what happens with the rules. So the stay simply asks that the status quo, the way things are, just keep that in place instead of requiring all these utilities to go and spend millions and millions of dollars. And of course, you know, that could be passed on to us. You know, they would have a very good argument that it would be. It would be. I mean, I hate to, you know, presume that, but if it's a rule that's passed by the federal government, they would have a right to collect it as part of their costs.
Yeah, exactly.
So the ratepayers will be paying for that. So we're trying to prevent economic harm to consumers in Louisiana as a result of these rules that might not even be affirmed.
Well, you ought to go to work for the utility companies because they owe you a big deal. I'm not gonna vote for this now.
Okay.
You saved them.
Well, good. Glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear I saved the ratepayers some money, hopefully. That's what I meant to do.
Let me ask a question. Our attorneys are recommending we vote against this, right?
No, vote for, you
For the
vote
case,
for
to-
the stay.
to oppose,
And
yeah.
against
All right, all right.
the implementation of the rules at this
Correct.
time.
All right. When I get my turn, I'll vote to support my attorneys on this one. So, and Campbell, you're against our attorneys on this one?
No, I'm for the stay.
Yeah, it's for,
Okay,
What?
roll call then.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Roll call vote. Now, the motion is to
to
Approve
affirm,
the stay.
to affirm.
approve the
what we
stay, all
vote.
right,
Yes.
okay.
Let me say something, Mr. Chairman, if you don't
All
mind.
right, Mr. Campbell.
I appreciate you explaining this to me. I was at the Cleo meeting. Everybody up there was clapping and saying how great it was gonna be. There is doubts about carbon capture. In Mr. Devante's area of southwest Louisiana, there's a lot of concern about where it's gonna be, how much it's gonna cost, who's gonna make all the money. So, but it's not a done deal yet, and it's not a proven science yet. It's some real questions about it. So before I ask utility companies to swallow it, we need to know more about it. And I appreciate your explanation because it's very clear, and I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Is that your motion, Commissioner Schmidt?
Motion to
Ratify
Okay.
the stay.
ratify the intervention.
Okay,
Yes.
roll call
Or no,
vote.
sorry, the motion to stay.
Yes.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Lewis, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Schmidt, how do you
Yeah,
vote?
yes.
Commissioner Campbell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, so it's passed. Okay.
And we have one more ratification too. Right?
Dana.
Yes.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
do
we
this one too,
bifurcated.
Dana?
I did.
You can explain this one too.
So the second one, and Commissioner Skrmet has already made the motion for, was a petition for review of the orders in FERC docket number ER 24-1583 regarding Sunflowers Highway Byway Cost Allocation Amendments. And that was a petition for review filed in DC Circuit number 24-1282. And we'll entertain a second. for that.
second.
So motion and a second. What's, Dana, what's sunflower?
Okay, so Sunflower is an entity, this is an issue that Commissioner Francis and Lane Sissong and I worked on together. Sunflower is a stakeholder and in the Southwest Power Pool footprint. They are located in a zone where there is a tremendous amount of wind power, and that wind power is being generated in their zone, but exported out of the zone. They have made an argument that, that is not fair to them because they're having to pay a disproportionate amount of the cost of the transmission build out to export that wind power. So that's what this issue is.
Is that sort of like something being generated in Mississippi shipped over to Texas? Same thing, isn't it?
It is, yes.
How about that? So here we go again. It's going to be generated. Let's see. Let me see if I got this. I'm slow, but I think I'm catching on. So they're going to have a line that goes all across Louisiana, generate the electricity in Mississippi, send it to Texas. and we-
Commissioner, I'm sorry, can you use your microphone, please?
Everybody knows what I'm saying. They got a PhD in this. I appreciate you. I'm getting to like you better and better. So you're telling me that is it a coincidence, or is it the same thing, that they're going to generate this electricity, ship it to another state, and they're worried about not getting anything out of it? That's correct?
That's right.
Oh, what a hell of a deal that is. How you like that? They're going to do the same thing that we were talking about. Send it over to Mississippi, have it generated, send it back to Texas, you don't get anything. And they're upset about it, right?
Well, they're upset about it, but.
Really?
Right.
They don't think that's fair, right?
They do not think that's fair.
Oh, how about that? Same old 7-6, isn't it? Thank you, no further questions.
Does Sunflower, is it DC Electricity or AC Electric?
Oh, gosh, now I wish Lane was here. It's
dangerous electric.
Yeah, it's, but I will, just to make sure the record's complete, because I've started down this road, hope you still like me, but, in this particular case, Sunflower is making that complaint, but Louisiana Commission has taken the position that, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles in the Southwest Power Pool region, that the costs.
That's not true. That's not true, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm arguing, that's not what our ALJ said. Our ALJ said it may be good for Louisiana. There goes that word again. She never said it's good for, what's the word we're looking for? Come on with it. What do you have to satisfy?
In the public interest?
Oh, yeah. They didn't, she said it may be in the public interest.
No, we overturned that.
No, you overturned it.
Well, the commission did.
But we not through. I'm glad you said we, because we ain't through yet.
The commission said it's not the public.
No, it didn't. That's in there.
You said her analysis was not correct.
No, that's what you
Commissioner
said.
No, the commission voted on that.
Yeah, right. Well, we're not through anyway, but I appreciate you coming up and bringing that, because it's right on point. Right on point. Thank you.
Good, you're welcome.
Can we have a motion and a
We have a motion and a second to ratify that intervention. Any opposition?
I'm all for this.
We
Mr.
need a
Chairman?
roll call vote?
Nope,
No,
no
sir.
roll
Okay,
call.
all right, good, well, we're good. It's-
Move to adjourn.
It's approved, and we have a motion to adjourn?
Do we have
Is
a
there
second?
Thank y'all.
Second.
See y'all.
Adjourn.
Going to North Louisiana? No, we.